Great, thank you for coming. So today we start, this is the beginning of the end, right? The last chapter of the Gita, Moksha, Sanyas, Yoga, 18वां अध्याय. And we start today, 18वें अध्याय का प्रारंभ. And it's the longest chapter also. So probably who knows how long it will take. Soon we'll enter 11th year of these reflections, as we call them, empowering Gita reflections. Speaking of Shakti, speaking of Navratri, there is power in the Gita. Every word is filled, not just filled, it overflows. Actually, filled to theek hai, but we can hold no more. It starts to overflow with power, with goodness, with love, and with, because it comes from a source, unstoppable source. And so the more we take on to it, the more we go deeper in it, the more power we receive, and we feel the empowerment ourselves. Otherwise, all our life we're seeking power, someone else's words, someone else's inspiration, someone else's guidance, someone else's this, that, someone else's kripa, someone else's mercy, favors. This takes us to a place where we seek our own. The power is within us. It leaves us with that. And that is moksha, the freedom. Moksha, sannyasa, yoga. When I am seeking no more. Why? When would I seek no more? When I would feel that I have everything. Otherwise, we will always continue to seek something more. It's just natural. Until I feel fulfilled, again, word, right? I will continue to fill my cup. But when I see that it's overflowing, then I don't seek anymore. And that's moksha. So today, I am not sure that we will get into like the actual verses. Maybe we'll just hop, skip, and jump through, just to give you a lay of the land, a broad brush overview of, generally speaking, what's to be expected in this chapter, in this journey as we go through. What is the significance of the last chapter? All that. I'm assuming that you know about the Gita, you know about the context of the Gita itself. So we'll talk about the context of this chapter, not the context of the Gita, right? Because just most people know about that. In December there is Gita Jayanti, so we'll see if we can make some progress until then. Margashirsha month begins, and then the Ekadashi, that's called Mokshada Ekadashi. The name of that Ekadashi is Mokshadayini Ekadashi. Why? Because the Gita arrived, Gita on that day on the battlefield. And that month is so special that in the Gita itself, Krishna says, I am Margashirsha among the months. In the 10th chapter, when he gives different examples, Vibhuti Yoga, when Arjuna asks, Keshu Keshu cha bhaveshu chintosi bhagavan maya, or when you leave, go away from Dwarka and you're no longer standing in front of me, Krishna, how will I see you everywhere? You're saying that I'm everywhere. I believe it. I'm feeling it right now. I will miss you. I don't want to. So, can you tell me how will I be able to always perceive and never miss you? And so that chapter walks him through. Here's how you can perceptively, insightfully, here's how you can see me in everything, wherever you look. And in those, one example he gives, like in the months, for example, Mahasanam Margashirsho Aham. I am Margashirsha month, and it is that period, November, December. Half of November, half of December is roughly, because our lunar cycle is not congruent to the solar cycle. Huh? Apna panchang alag hota hai na? Isliye. So in it, that Ekadashi, that's when the war had begun in Kurukshetra, in northern India, northwestern part of India, generally. So anyway, so that's the Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. Last couple of sessions, the two of you will remember, and I think you might remember some of it because you were here last time, but you'll definitely remember the categorization of the third of the Gita, right? There are like the first 6 chapters are typically, there is 2 or 3 ways of looking at it, just for refresher, and for you also, and for some of those who are on the call. First 6 are like the triage mode. The second 6 are like treatment, and then the third 6 are like therapy, the triage treatment therapy. And so we're in the therapy part of it. triage हो गया, मतलब क्या, bleeding has stopped, assuming we walked sincerely through, we followed it. We're no longer passing out, we've stabilized. Treatment भी हो गया, we're no longer in the ICU either. We as in the soul. Jai Shri Krishna. Welcome. And then the shots have stopped and the IVs have been taken off and all of that. We're about 18th chapter, we're about to be, we're in the discharge mode. And the Dr. Krishna is telling us, okay, here's what you got to do. Like as you leave, walk away, avoid this, do that, all that. And even within that, these are like the final instructions because it's the 18th chapter. That's one way of looking at the Gita. Another way of looking at it is first 6 chapters typically answer the famous first original question of who am I? Now there are three ancient questions that have bothered and bogged humanity. The most insightful people have thought about the seers and the scientists and the thinkers and the thought leaders have constantly pondered over. You still write on those. I mean, some variations of those. Number 1, who am I? Second is, who is God? And third is, what's my relationship? How do I behave? What do I do? Once I identify, once I experience who I am, and not the name and the form. This was inherited. Someone slapped it on me. Someone gave me the form, and someone put the label on me. This is my name. But in reality, in truth, who am I? And then Bhagwan कहते हैं, कोई ये कहता, कोई वो. Who is God? Is there God? Who is it? How is He? And that's the second. And then once you experience ki, acha, this is me, this is God, and here's how I'm related, then the question remains like, okay, what do I do? How should I be? The rest of my life, how should I show up? How should I behave? That's it. And so the Gita, it's so fantastic. The first six chapters, pretty much spot on target on that. Who am I? The experience of that. For instance, it starts with the Vishad Yoga, walks through the second chapter, which is the Sankhya Yoga, in which there's a great illustration about the Atma, the soul, that it is. And then the third, Jai Shri Krishna. And then the sixth chapter takes us through the prescription for the experience, which is through Dhyan Yoga, right, meditation. So it leaves, by the time the first, third, and the 6 chapters, it leaves us with the power and the agency and the choice that if we stick to it, we can experience the truth about ourselves. Like, who in truth, am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I a human? Am I this bhai and that bhai? Am I Gujarati or am I Marathi or who, like what? Am I American? Am I brown, yellow? Who am I? Or a dog or a man? If none of those, or if more than those, then in truth what it is. This is real. This is practical. This is tangible. These are not just words. The experience is real. This may have been said 5,000 years ago, but it can be experienced today. Many have. In the Gita, in that section, is the Bahunam, Puta Bhava Magasa. So many, numerous people have experienced it. So ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है कि बस एक करोड़ों में एक ही आएगा उसी के लिए. Whoever wants, whoever desires, whoever commits, whoever pursues it, whoever prioritizes, whoever doggedly pursues it, does not leave it, can have that. The second set of 6 chapters from 7 through 12 answers the question, who is God? And it's just so powerfully answers. It's the most authoritative description of any scriptures. It's like, who is God? Because this is what God Himself is describing Himself. All others are like, God is this way, that way, aisa, waisa, neti, ye, wo. Here, wo khud hi bata raha hai. Who is God? How is God? See that, straight up. You know? Like perhaps the only place where so succinctly articulated with such clarity is God. And so if you faithfully follow it, something that they really needed, with an open mind, the broad open mind, not stuck up, not using a puny little brain that we've got, like a peanut, and thinking, I know this and I know that, aisa nahi ho sakta, waisa nahi ho sakta, tark with tark lekar ke, logic, illogic. Open mind, broad open mind, and faith. Let me walk with you first. I want to see what's there. Let me walk with you wherever you're taking. But by the end of the 12th chapter, Bhakti Yoga, you start to feel it. Right? And then the third set of chapters, which is, then we're in the third set, it's like, okay, so what's all this around me? There are only three entities, if you will. There is me, there is God, I've heard, and there's everything else in between. For you, there is God, and there is everything in between. Everyone, everything, all of it. And for you, the same thing. And then like for any person, there's the self, ourself, me, whoever I think. Then there is some power somewhere called God. And then the third is all the masala in between, the system, or the cosmos, or the srishti, or the dunya, jagat, world, whatever, universe, call it. And so the third section addresses that. What is that third? Everything in between. How do I deal with this? Why can't I just be with you, God, you and me? Why do I have to deal with all this unwanted Prakriti? Prakriti and beyond, everything, right? And so that's the 13th chapter starts with Kshetra Vibhag Yoga, the distinction between the field and the knower of the field. And then the 14th chapter, we've gone through this, Gunatraya Vibhag Yoga. She's like, well, there are three psychological forces of nature that are driving each of us to behave in a particular way. Why am I sometimes good? Why am I sometimes bad? Why is the same person sometimes this way, that way, or at a different place behaves differently, and in their own home behave differently? Like, who messes all this up? Why is this such a mess? Who controls it? Is there a villain up there somewhere who's like, Katputli jaise nachara? Am I just like, there's some brute, some monster, some demon who like leaves me with no freedom? What's the point of living? What is all this? And that's the 13th through 18th chapter, the third section. And so that's the 13, 14, 15, and 16 we've covered through in Deva Asur Sampatti Vibhag Yoga. And it's like the features and benefits of the good and the not good. 17th we've gone through Shraddha Traya Vibhag Yoga, the three kinds of faith, the way we think. Yo yat Shraddha sa eva sa eva. In the 17th chapter is like, we are with the way we think. Buddha Bhagavan had also said, we're just a product of our thoughts. We are what we eat and we are what we think. Yeah. So और क्या है अभी खाया भोजन वो बन गए हड्डी मांस बन गए, or the way I think, that's how I talk, and that's how I behave, and that's how I show up, and that's how I beg, borrow, steal, or give. So whatever I believe in, however, and in the 17th chapter he starts to delineate the three category broad various ways of thinking, and that leads us to the 18th chapter, which is where we are today. So so whether you think of the triage, treatment, therapy way of looking at the Gita, and a practical way of living, or like the worldly way, phenomenal way of living is the triage, treatment, therapy, or the spiritual way, or you've gone beyond that and you're like deeply interested in philosophy and spirituality and you're actually committed, then if you're thinking about who am I, who is God, and what's this all system, either way, Gita will fully satisfy you. And so the 18th chapter ushers us into like, here's the gate, now you can leave. Moksha Sanyas Yoga. That's sort of the context, a little bit of the context of the so moksha is mukti, liberation, freedom उसी को चाहिए जो बंधा हुआ है. Like if someone is already free, why would they seek moksha? You know, moksha would only be desirable for someone who feels like I'm bound. Someone is like compelling me, and I think we all of us fit in that category. That so long as there is some external dependency, a dependence on some external stimuli for my joy. So long as I think I need this, whether it's shabda, sparsha, rupa, ras, gandha. When I hear this, I feel good. When I hear that, I feel bad. So then I'm being bumped around by the external stimuli of words and sounds. Or when I touch and feel this, or this person or that person, or my dog or my cat, or the velvet or whatever, I feel good, or this doesn't feel good. Shabda, sparsha, roop, when I see this, or the vacation or the mountain or the ocean, or those that are my kids, my people, or whatever, my country, my guru, whatever it is, if it is connected to drishti, then I'm dependent still. Because if I don't see it, then I'm longing And so there's either, yeah, I feel good or I don't feel good. So Sabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa is the taste. Yeah, this is बढ़िया है, कड़ी पकौड़े, खमन, ढोकला, ये नवरात्रि 56 भोग आए, अभी तो 56 भोग आएंगे. Then that's all good. नहीं ये तो 55 हो गए, 54 हो गए, इसमें नमक कम हो गया, शक्कर ज़्यादा हो गया. Constantly driven by, dependent on external stimuli. That's not freedom. No, that's being bound. And so therefore we seek freedom. जब तक नमक बराबर नहीं होगा, शक्कर बराबर नहीं होगी, तब तक बंधे हैं. Because we're still dependent. रस पे dependent है. अथवा गंध, smell, sense of smell. ये अगरबत्ती, वो अगरबत्ती, ये परफ्यूम, ऐसा वैसा, सब जो. And this is just like one example. There's different categories of several different, the relationships, the behaviors, whether I get thumbs up or not, how many connections I have and you have, and कौन से स्कूल में किसके बच्चे गए, which degree, which job, when promotion, the salary band, like the car brand, the clothes, कौन सी locality में है, school district कैसा है, like the visa, H1B, green card, citizenship, like, oh my God, it's like endless dependencies है. Bound. So जिसमें से किसी भी कैटेगरी में अगर फिट होते हैं तो then we are seeking moksha. So मोक्ष उसी को चाहिए जो बंधन में है. बंधन किसका, किसने बांधा है, किसने नहीं बांधा है, अपनी अपेक्षा ने बांधा है. My expectations have bound me. I want this, I want that, and therefore that whatever it is that has bound me. And so it is within me. The bond, the rope, the binding force is inside me. I have bound myself. अपने करके. Therefore it suggests, logic would inform that then I can also unwind it. I can also release myself. I can also set myself free if I bound myself. Atmanyeyo atmana tushta. One of the shloks that kind of like अपने आप से अपने आप की मुक्ति. छठे अध्याय से in the 6th chapter also he says Atma eva atmano bandhu, Atma eva rupuratmana. You are your best friend, you are your worst enemy. You can be your greatest guru. And you can, like, if we go deep within. In the 10th chapter he says that I've already programmed it, like everything you need. The software is already there. You know what you need to know. Like I often say, there is the lamp, there is the oil in it, and there is the wick in it also. And I've left this matchstick with you also. You just have to like light it. If you want, light it, and you'll see the whole light and lightens. So the enlightenment is possible within. The illumination is within, is possible. And so that's how the Gita walks us through, and hence empowering. It leaves us with this ability, with this belief, with this faith that, yeah, I can. And we've gone through this. Those who've been through this path, we've talked about this in some of that. Yeah, with each chapter ending, we've experienced that I feel better, I feel stronger, I feel more agency, I have better control. I am responding, not reacting, more and more. I am able to create a gap between how I receive and what I give back, how I respond. Right? I'm able to pause for a moment. I'm able to think. I'm able to regain control and not be dragged by it. With each iteration, with each chapter, with each thought that layers on, with the support of the Gita, with the power of the Gita, because those came from the most powerful. This came from the most powerful, the source of all power. So I'm again trying to impress upon your mind that, do yourself a favor, stick with it, stick with the Gita. You can have it in your home, you can read it, you can process it, make it your own. If this remains someone else's, it will not. You will have to unwind your own rope. So make it your own. Make Krishna your own. Make Gita your own. Interpret it in your own way. Give it your own thought. Read it in your own way. Sit with it yourself. Otherwise, years and decades can go reading someone else's and like, hey, itna yaad ho gayi कंठस्थ के ऊपर, yeah, फिर से वही धमाधम. So in the beginning of where the 17th chapter ends, is he's still almost finishing the Shraddha Traya Vibhag Yoga, the 3 categories of it, but it's not quite fully completed. it ended with the therefore if you want to create a path for yourself, Arjun, toward the end of the 17th chapter, he had said, you should follow Shastra. The scriptures are sort of a guidebook. It's like a map. It's like, पहले AAA के map लाते थे ना, वो trip trick. You remember GPS के पहले years ago, like you'd go stop by the AAA house or like your map, 7-Eleven में मिल जाते थे. A rental car company.
Where I used to highlight the maps for everyone.
Yeah, like which way am I going? How? ऐसे ही that he said that these scriptures have been given to you. If you want, you can figure out your own wild west, or you can follow the path. And so, ye shastra midi. And this is like the sar of all the scripture. Gita itself is, Gita comes from the Upanishads. Upanishads come from the Vedas, and Vedas come from God. So God's knowledge is infinite. Knowledge itself is infinite. Google doesn't know everything. Google only knows what Google's been told. That you should know this, people. And it's told by those who don't know much at all, like us. So there's no end to knowledge. So, literally, there is no end to knowledge. And so from those, that compilation of knowledge is Ved, which means knowledge. And then the essence of that is the Upanishads. And the essence of Upanishads is Gita. This is not just my interpretation. The Gita itself says it at the end of each chapter. And it's been recognized by everyone. So we have access to that, like the deepest secrets. And few times in the Gita he says this is the deepest secret. In fact, in this chapter, towards the end of this, and there's about 65th, 60, 63, 64, 65, 66, those verses in this chapter. He says, okay, I'll tell you like the final secret. Mystery, here it is. And then that's when Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mameka Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayashyami Ma Shucha. So we'll get to that. Like, how is that the final secret? That feels very underwhelming, that give everything up and just surrender to me. Like, that doesn't feel like any secret. That doesn't even feel like anything. And yet it is. And it is just very power-packed. Because there is a way to get to that, to the summit. That's when we will experience it. And we will get to it in about a year's time. As you know. Because we haven't even started the chapter yet. I told you this is the longest. So,
like Arjun said, he doesn't want Krishna to go away. It's like that for us. We don't want it to end.
The Gita. For Gita to end. And it doesn't, yeah. If we make it our own, then as long as I have the Gita also. So, in the beginning, then abruptly remember the Gita was not like 18 different sections as it was spoken over 2.5 hour time period. Started at about, the evidence suggests about 7:45 a.m. The 8 a.m. war was about to begin. Next were going to be chopped off, and possibly the end of the day, the war could have been over, depending on, and this the conchs have started to blow, and the elephants and the horses and all that, and the drums and 7:45. This mighty warrior prince, this sort of the most formidable warrior, just sits down, sinks in his chariot, saying, "I'm not fighting. I'm not doing this. I'm going back." That's like, wait, 7:45 a.m., 8 o'clock. Everybody's announced that it's about to begin. This cannot be. And so it's a hurried conversation. It's not aram se बैठे like ये पानी पी, थोड़े take a deep breath. ऐसा वैसा नहीं उसमें कुछ. Another deep breath. Oh, just like imagine a blue sky. ऐसा कुछ समय नहीं उसके लिए. सबके लिए ऐसे अभी फटाफट उसको खड़ा करना है. इसलिए so it was a continuous conversation. There was no one function break. Can we like can I go to the bathroom and come back? No. Just like सीधी गीता चल रही है. तो हमारे लिए उसके section बनाए 18 अध्याय. So it's a continuous conversation. At the end of the 17th chapters, as we call it, there was no end of 17th chapter. There wasn't even a 17th chapter. It was a single dialogue conversation. Arjun abruptly asked the question, which is where this portion, 18th chapter, begins. That Sanyas or Yoga? You've talked about Sanyas, Krishna, and you also talk, or Tyag rather, not Yoga. Sanyas and Tyag. I'm a little bit confused about it. Are they the same? Are they synonymous? Are they different from each other? Are they antonyms? Is one better than the other? Should I follow one or the other? What can you Sanyasascha mahabaho. Those are the first couple of words in the first verse of the 18th chapter. Mahabaho means big armed, mighty arm. भगवान के हाथ घुटनों के नीचे तक जाते थे, अजानुबाहु कहते हैं. When he would stand upright, and our hands like reach up to this point, like up to the thighs, है ना, normal humans के. But his arms reached below his knees. And therefore imagine like how long the bow and arrow might be pulled if he had wingspan, a wide wingspan. और वो इतनी ताकत से छूटेगा तो, है ना. And there's many implications of that also, like far reaching. कानून के हाथ लंबे होते हैं गब्बर. ऐसे उसके हाथ भी बहुत लंबे थे, है ना. Nobody escapes from his.
I mean, I decided to read like only for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And honestly, before the session started, so I only got to the first verse, but
yeah. So
for him, it was like, okay.
That's one way. That's one way to think about it. I haven't processed it that way. That condensed the whole Gita into these two. But sure. And to be honest, I actually have been confused about this also until I had to think about the answer that's given to this question by Krishna about this. And because it's easy to imagine sannyas and tyag are the same or not, right? Because generally speaking, the people on surface level they feel similar also. And he's very specifically talked about those two at different places. For example, the 3rd verse in the 5th chapter. He also said, Geyasya nitya sannyasi yo na dveshtina kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchate. He said, you can be a forever millionaire. I call nitya sannyasi in modern language, like forever millionaire, like bindas, like permanently bindas ho sakta hai to. Nitya sannyasi. Usko samajh Geyasya nitya sannyasi yo, that one, na dveshti na kankshati. It does not like seek something or hate something. ये चाहिए ये नहीं चाहिए, ये चाहिए ये नहीं चाहिए, ऐसा जिसका नहीं है. निर्द्वंद्वो हि महाबाहो. The one who is unstuck, अर्जुन के लिए कहता है, जिसमें द्वंद्व नहीं, the pairs of opposite, not being tossed and turned this way and that way by likes and dislikes. Relative life जिसका नहीं है, absolute में just right now we're living in relative, ना, everything is relative. You follow relative, right? Comparison. Everything is comparative in our life. Everything is comparative. Whatever we say good or bad is relative to something that is not as good or as bad. There is some threshold, some standard, some concocted notion, something we've made up in our mind that feels like the whatever better, and then we compare it to this, that. And it says the one who goes beyond that, nirdvandvo sukham bandhat pramuchate. Sukh purvak bandhan se pramuchate, mukta hai. There is no bondage for himself. And there are other places. So in the 6th chapter, Naya Sanyasta Sankalpo Yogi Bhavati Kaschana. It says also in the beginning of in the very first verse, in fact, of the 6th chapter, Anashrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karotiya Sayogi Cha Sanyasi Cha Na Niragnirna Chakriya. So at times he talks about sannyas, actually more than tyag. But the tyag also appears, the word. And so it is quite logical. The question is logical for a normal person to ask. And as I said, I have been confused myself also. But the response clarifies it. And even the response which I will now share, what he says, it may not satisfy you right now, right away, until you process it in your own thinking. And I will encourage you, घर जाने के बाद अपने ध्यान में, अपने ड्राइविंग के समय अलग से घूमने फिरने जाते थे, इसके बारे में सोचना अलग से, to get it right. So काम्यानां कर्मणां न्यासं संन्यासं कवयो विदुः सर्व कर्म फल त्याग प्राहु त्याग विचक्षणा is the response that Krishna gives to the question that Arjuna asked you. Can you delineate, can you differentiate, can you discern the detailed differences between sannyas and tyag? Why is Arjuna asking this? Because he was ready to give up in the very first chapter. He said, I don't want to fight. I don't want I don't want kingdom. I don't want any of this. I'll beg, I'll hide in my cave, and I'll just give everything up. Then why this whole dissertation? Then why this whole thesis? I was already giving up. And why are you walking me on this path? Like, still clarify me. And so in that sense, Sanjeev Bhai, what you said does make sense, that, okay, can you like bring it all together, bring it home, the message for me. And so it's sort of the first short answer, and the long answer is the rest of the chapter. The short answer is Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sanyasam Kavayo Vidu. So that's the first verse. So let's decode that. Vidu is like those who know. Kavayo is like really the deep, those who have concluded, really drank it and completely processed it and got it. Kavi Shabda just Sanskrit, the Kavi is a lot more than poet. We normally just Kavi is poet. Kavi is like those who are like very spiritualists who have completely figured out the truth as it is. Vidu is Jnana, illumined souls, Vidvan कहते हैं ना, Vidvata. So वो कहते हैं संन्यासम काम्यानाम कर्मणाम न्यासम. So kamya karma, the karma, the action, the task, the chore, the work that is performed with a personal desire. I am doing this because I want something out of it. The vifam, what's in it for me? When something is done with vifam paradigm, what will I get? No, what will I get? What do I do? I just don't do that. That's wasting time. उससे जो किया जाएगा उसको छोड़ना. काम्यानाम कर्मणाम न्यास is not doing it, letting go, releasing that. When I do what I do, or whichever chore I do, completely free, completely rid of the thought of what's in it for me. I'm doing it not because I'm focused on what's in it for me. I'm doing it for some other reason. What is that some other reason? Again, the rest of the Gita. No? That I'm doing it for dharma, in other words. And then we'll talk about that next, what dharma is. Because in the end, the climax, sarva dharman parityajya, I told you, mameka sharanam. He said, like, leave aside all dharma, just like follow me, and you'll be fine also. So we'll get to that. But here he's saying, when one lets go of that inner feeling, of that inner drive, of that personal motive, of that strong desire, of that propensity, of this force within that, I will only do if there is something in it me, personal. Because I haven't even understood who am I. I think I'm this limited shell, this small body that I am. And to try to hoard everything for this is going the other way around. So those who perform tasks, those who let go of tasks that are driven by personal motives, who do not do anything. So सन्यासी लोग क्या करते हैं, वो भगवे गेरुए वस्त्र पहन के निकल जाते हैं ना. वो अपनी पत्नी, अपने बच्चे, like they don't have a wife, they don't have kids, they don't build their houses, second house, third house नहीं बड़ा, ये नहीं फर्श भी नहीं बनाते, जिधर रखा उधर है ना. सन्यासी के लिए क्या है, तीन दिन का विधान है, जोगी तो रमता वाला. Should not stay at any place for more than 3 days. उनके धर्म में आता सन्यासी के. If that person, like my muscle is twisting here, if that person stays there for more than 3 days, फिर लगाव हो गया, लग रहा है अच्छे लगने लगे कोई लोग वहाँ पे, ये जगह अच्छी लगने लग गई, फिर धीरे धीरे उसकी कथा है फिर लंबी, देने फिर लगा मे बी आई शुड जस्ट स्टे हियर, और उसके लिए फिर कुटिया बनानी पड़ेगी, मे बी someone can build it something for me, and then then they get married, and then kids and the pets and everything. I'm like all that. So no 3 nights in one place. So 3 days 2 nights, it's a perfect vacation. move on to the next place. So, and that happens to be incidentally the most common vacation timing. Like you might take a 10-day vacation, but you don't stay at that more than 3 days 2 nights, and you move on to the next place. In fact, वो जो airline में जाते थे, वो magazines होते हैं ना, वो seat के पीछे डालते हैं. Then they put like 3 days in Amsterdam or 3 days in wherever. उसमें you eat 3 days and 2 nights. It's like सन्यासी की भावना ऐसे. So काम्यानाम कर्मणाम न्यासम संन्यासम कवयो विदु. So they do very limited work, very limited tasks. They don't take on like the whole ये भी करना है, वो भी करना है, वो भी करना है. इसलिए सन्यासी you see with a lot of free time for processing, because they they have reduced their desires. They've given up their desire. They actually don't want anything like a whole lot. Kaupina vanta khalu bhagyavanta. Adi Shankaracharya said. Kaupina langoti, like adult diaper जैसे. कौपीन वंत जो उसमें संतुष्ट है वो सच में भाग्यवंत है. जिसके पास 2 कपड़े हैं बस. One I'm wearing, the other that's drying on the string that I just washed. इसको धो के उसको पहन लूँगा, उसको पहन के इसको धो लूँगा बस. इतना जिसके पास है वो ब्यूटीफुल लाइफ है ना. सो उसको भाग्यवान कहा है ज्ञानियों ने. सो एंड दैट्स हाउ द सन्यासीज लिव. डंडा लेकर के एक नारियल का कटोरी में उसी में पानी पी लेंगे, उसी में खाना खा लेंगे. नहीं वो भी नहीं, अंजोली में उसको भी फेंक देते हैं. द रियल सन्यासी वो नारियल वारियल भी नहीं रखते सामने. लिटरली ड्रिंक फ्रॉम देयर हैंड्स. जो कपड़ा उसमें झोले में ओम भवति भिक्षान देहि करके उसमें डाल देते हैं. उसमें अलग अलग पॉकेट्स नहीं होती. इधर चावल दे रहे वो सब उसी में डाल देते हैं. इधर सब उधर ही जाता है ना. इसमें तो सब एक इधर कहाँ कंपार्टमेंट है. दाल को इधर भेजना है, चावल को इधर भेजना करके. ऐसे ही पेट जैसे ही उनका झोला भी होता है. सो बिंदास फर्स्ट क्लास जीवन और सोचे थे बिकॉज दे नॉट डूइंग एनीथिंग फॉर देमसेल्व्स. सो दोज हु हैव लेट गो हैव लेफ्ट. कर्म ही नहीं करते जिसमें. सो दैट्स फर्स्ट नुआंस. दे आर नॉट एंगेज्ड इन वर्क इटसेल्फ इफ इट हैज समथिंग टू डू विद देमसेल्व्स. त्यागी इज डिफरेंट एंड यू विल सी इन अ मोमेंट. त्यागी is not the one who कर्म ही नहीं करते हैं. त्यागी कर्म करते हैं फल नहीं. काम्यानाम कर्मणाम न्यासम संन्यासम कवयो विदु सर्व कर्म फल त्याग सत्यागी विचक्षणा. त्यागी जो कर्म करते हैं लेकिन फल को नहीं रखते अपने पास, फल की अपेक्षा से नहीं है ना. सो दिस इज वेयर यू विल हैव टू डू योर ओन थिंकिंग प्रोसेसिंग. व्हाट डज दिस मीन, हाउ डज दिस अप्लाई टू मी. क्योंकि उपनिषदों में ये दोनों these both paths are highly uplifted up, highly exalted. Both of these paths, sannyas and tyag, and they intersect each other quite often. Now I'm not going to spend the rest of the reflection on just this path, but I just wanted to give you a window into where the chapter begins. So spend some time whenever, if you feel like it. One category, sannyasis, are just disengaging from work if it has anything to do with something in it for me. Tyagis are doing what must be done, what's in front of them, but inside they are not attached to they're not outcome oriented. In other words, the result is not like whether this will happen or that will happen or that aisa nahi hona chahiye waisa nahi hona chahiye. They're focused on the task, focused on the regardless of what happens in the end. You know? So then he spends maybe a few verses on it, further clarifying. And when we start the actual verse by verse, you will decode the complex and we'll clarify even more. So, na dveshti akushalam karma kushalena anushajyate tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi chinna sanchaya. It's not meghavi, but last time I told you, like almost your name appears in the Medhavi Chinna Sanchaya. It's one of the brilliant verses that comes early on in this chapter. Na dveshti akushalam karma. This is a very, very good shlok, very near dear to me, a role model, exemplifying shlok, very helpful, very empowering also. Na dveshti akushalam karma. He said, karma, so everyone knows, task, work. Akushal, like something that's, I don't like it. I don't want to do that. Akushal karma would be karma that I don't like. You know? Or, yeah, I know, but I'm not good at it, therefore I'm not going to do it. Something that has personal excuse attached to it. I don't want to do this because I don't like it, or I think I'm not good at it. Although that has to be done. It should be done. You should be doing it. But I'm going to say, no, never mind, sorry, thank you, no good. No, thank you. I'm good. What do you mean by, like, apne bacche kehte na, teenagers? Like, I hear that a lot. No, thank you. No. I'm not asking you. This is not a choice. No, thank you. करके निकल मत जाना. No, झाड़ू उठा, झाड़ने लग जाना. No, thank you नहीं. Like, I don't like it. I'm not good at it. No. क्यों? क्योंकि ये अकुशल कर्म है. अथवा डिशवॉशर लोड अनलोड करना है, जो भी. There is a phase in life, I don't want to do this. But it has to be done, brother. Like, someone has to do it. As I say, if you don't do it, someone will have to do it. And that someone might be me, that I'd rather that you. So let's close the loop. So, na dveshti. So, akushalam karma se jo dvesh nahi karta hai. Someone who is not pushing away. Dvesh is something like dislike, disdain. One who does not have disdain for or does not dislike akushal karma just because the part I don't like it or I think I'm not good at it, therefore I know it has to be done, someone will have to do it, well, better someone else than that. Na dveshti akushalam karma kushale na anushajyate. And yet kushal karma, this is great. I love to listen to this song, all right? I love to just sit here and relax in this massage chair or whatever it is, or some chore also. Anushajyate, usme chipak jana, wohi karte rehna, wohi karna. And so again, the idea is being unstuck and doing what needs to be done in the moment without regards to likes or dislikes, personal proclivities, personal, yeah.
So akushal is we defined as something that is required by life, by duty or anything that we are supposed to do it. Is that how we...
Akushal is something that you either don't like or you think you're not good at. Then, in other words, I don't want to do for whatever reason is akushal karma. Usse jo dvesh na kare, na dveshti akushalam karma. Kushal is the opposite of that. I really like to do this. Or fishing trip, or gardening. Oh, well, can I go to grocery shopping because then I can bring the snacks that I want? Like, how about this? I'll take a big load off of you. I'll do that because I like that. Kushal, bar wohi. Na anushajyate. Chipakte nahi usme ki mere ko yahi karna hai. Bas hamesha just make this small, this. I will do these only. The thick line jo draw kar, I will only do this. I will never do this. Because I don't like it, I don't want it, I'm not good at it, and I really like it, I hope I get it, I want to do this. ऐसा जो नहीं है, दोनों और नहीं है. न द्वेष्टि अकुशलम कर्म, कुशले न अनुषज्यते. Okay? So, you're following generally speaking. Again, this is not the detailed session. When we do the detailed session, we just cover 2 or 3 shlokas in the whole hour and a half or so. Tyagi is here talking about Tyagi, Sattva Samavishto. Because they're filled with Samavishto, like filled, replete with Sattva, purity, goodness, Sattvikta. They're filled with goodness, so they're focused on that which is right, not that which feels good. They prioritize that which is right. I will do what is right, not what I like or what feels good to me. Maybe I'll do that later if I have time and energy left. But first, this is first things first, as we say. Tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi. Medha is like buddhimatta, intellect, pragya, intuition, the intellect, ability to think incisively. Chinna sanchaya, they're doubt free. Sanchaya is doubt. Chinna is like ripped apart, cut asunder. They have no doubts about what's first, what's not, what's right, what's not, what should be done and what should not, what's okay to not do at any given time. Because through that process of tyag, through that discipline, the rigor of walking on that path consistently, they've developed their medha shakti, their intellect is sharpened. It's brilliant. They're able to instantly, spontaneously process the right action. And this is where we go into the definition of dharma. Anywhere dharma is said in the Gita, it's not talked about Hindu or Christian or Muslim. It means one or the other. Either, quite often, it's the original nature. Like the dharma of fire is heat, hot. The dharma of water, for example, is to flow. The dharma of ice is cold. The dharma of wind is to blow. It's just natural, that's how it is. The dharma of sky is to expand. घर बनाए, इधर पहले घर नहीं बनाया तो ये खाली जगह थी. When you put the walls and the ceiling, all that happened, there's still space in here. It expanded, it accommodates, expands. The Earth and the solar system and the Milky Way galaxy and this Andromeda or whichever, it just expands. उसका धर्म है आकाश का, है ना? So धर्म either means that your original composition, constitutionally what am I made of, is the dharam. Either that is what means by Gita, and by the way, we've gone through this. Your original constitution and mine is Satchidananda, right? Sat, Chit, Ananda. We're made of three things. These are spiritual things, three substances. The substance that we are made of as the Atma are not physical, are not tangible. You cannot touch, you cannot see, smell, taste. This we've gone through in the second chapter of this. There's a Sat, Chit, Ananda. And what do they mean? We're going to spend a lot of time on it. Some other day, maybe after we finish the 18th chapter, we can come back to all of these concepts as well, because that's where we are liberated. Once you realize your original nature, that's when you live bindas, and then you live first class. So that's one, dharam. Second is, after realizing my original nature, who am I? How do I behave? How do I show up? What do I do? Every moment, how I think, how I speak, and how I act is spontaneously right. Spontaneous because in the moment, it's not अभी मैं बैठ के 2 घंटे विचार ध्यान करके कल जाना उसके लिए कैसा. Every moment, instantaneous, moment by moment, no matter who is coming in front of me, no matter what the topic is, no matter what the task is, no matter what the person is, the situation, the circumstances, whether this is a temple or a war zone or some saint or some thug that I'm dealing with, or someone of my own or someone else, how am I thinking, how am I talking, and how am I behaving? When it is spontaneously right, and what is right and wrong is already embedded in our software according to the Gita, and it is true. It's like Vivek Shakti jise kehte hain. When we move the dirt from our heart, we know, for the most part, the conscience knows what is right and what is not right, for the most part. Now, there can be some confusion. Generally speaking, the masses agree, ये अच्छा नहीं, ये बराबर नहीं किया, ये गलत किया, ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए था, वैसा नहीं करना चाहिए था. Most people agree. Of course, perspectives are different and it changes and all of that. For the most part, generally speaking, and so when that evolves, when that clarifies, when that purifies, and when that becomes really absolute, and then every moment by moment, when we're doing spontaneous right action as in the thought, action as in the word I'm speaking, or action as in like the action, like the task that I'm performing, it is right. That when I am speaking, I'm not hurting someone through my words or my tone or the volume or my inflection or my passive aggression or whatever. I'm not hurting, or I'm not sugarcoating and bamboozling someone, because there is no ulterior motive in my mind. I'm not trying to get anything, or in my thoughts, I'm not concocting ki I'm saying one thing, but I'm actually planning for something else, plotting and scheming. Because that would be wrong, as we say. What would be right is that I'm aligned in my thoughts and my words and my action. Or when I'm acting, there is no hinsa. I'm showing up in a hinsa, for example, as one example. And that's happening with everyone at every time. Jai Shri Krishna. Yeah. So that would be, when that happens, that is dharam also. That if someone says that they are in their dharam, I'm in my dharam, that means that that's how the behavior shows up. And these two are important concepts for the 18th chapter, which is why I lifted those up, because the conclusion takes us to that. Because in the end, he says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. Okay, when you moment by moment, when you are walking, doing it right, then you are in your dharam. But it becomes very hard to know every moment what is right and what is not right, because there are different perspectives. Therefore, in the end, he says, here is the greatest secret, the final mystery. It says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. If you're confused, if you don't know how to process, how to discern, then why don't you just look at me? if you have to walk in this is the right direction and this is the wrong direction, suppose, and I'm walking in this direction, taking this step, and sometimes I get confused here, sometimes I veer off. He says, okay, if that's what's happening, you see me standing there because he's the best, he's the rightest. Bhagwan, by definition, God, will be the absolute right. If we believe in God, if there is a God, if we were to define God, then he would be the absolute right. Like there can be no one more right than whatever God. I'm not insisting that you believe this. I do through experience. But if you believe it, then so वो भगवान कह रहे थे मैं खड़ा हूँ ना हमने मेरी ओर, like if you just look at me and follow my path, you will automatically be walking on the path of dharam without even thinking about dharam, without even knowing what dharam is, without even understanding that whether this is or adharam. Just come to Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Mam is me, ek, I am the one standing at the final absolute spot. Sharan is align, not घुटने टेक के नाक रगड़ के. Look, there is a straight line. कोई भी दो व्यक्ति खड़े, भैया उधर बैठे मैं बैठा हूँ. Is there not a straight line between me and him? Like basic geometry, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, middle school geometry. A line is a straight path between 2 points. है ना? तो कहते देख इधर तू है उधर मैं हूँ. There is a straight line between you and me. When you walk on that path, you're walking on dharam. Know it or not, understand it or not, you are following dharam. And what's been said about dharam? Yato dharma tato Krishna. Yato Krishna tato jaya. जहाँ धर्म के लाइन पे चलेगा तो अंत में कृष्ण की प्राप्ति. जहाँ कृष्ण वहीं जय है, वहीं विजय है. The very last verse, the 700th verse of the Gita, of this 18th chapter, is Sanjay saying, oh man, like this game is already over before it started. See, this war might as well be over. This is Sanjay saying it. The war hasn't even started, but I think it's already over. How so? Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Yeah, it's over. I know how it's going to end. Because there is Krishna there, Yogeshwar. And Arjun is about to follow him. Arjun is getting ready to walk on the line that is a straight path between the two men standing, Arjun and Krishna. Parth is Arjun. Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijay. Vijay tu udhar hi hai. I know what the outcome of this war is going to be. It's like the one who's saying is saying, it hasn't even started yet. And it declares victory. Tatra Shri, वहाँ पर श्री है, अच्छाई है, मांगल्य है, सौंदर्य, goodness है. Shri means purity, goodness, मंगलता, पवित्र. विजय है, जय खाली नहीं. Mean there is a difference between the battle and the war. है ना? रोज का skirmish within in the final war. Jay is winning the battle today. Vijay is winning the war. The full war is ended. So यहाँ पर विजय शब्द हुआ है. तत्र श्री विजय भूति ध्रुवा नीति. ध्रुव is पक्का, a dig. ध्रुव means वो ध्रुव जो कहते north star, pole star, the one that says fixed in the sky. पक्का जो अडिग है. There's no change. This is पत्थर की लकीर है. नीति is my conclusion. मति मामा मेरी बुद्धि में ये पक्का हो गया. जीत इधर ही होने वाली है. क्योंकि that's where Krishna is, and Arjun is now starting to follow the straight line between him and drawn between him and Krishna. क्योंकि उसके पहले अर्जुन ने कहा था कि नष्टो मोह स्मृतिर्लब्ध्वा तत्प्रसादात् मयाच्युत स्थितो अस्मि गत संदेह करिष्ये वचनम tava. Arjun had declared just before some of these last shloks, this is all in the 18th chapter. All right, boss, I'm ready to follow. Karishyam I will do. Vachanam, like as you say, tava. I shall do as you say. In the beginning, Arjuna said, I shall not fight. Krishna said, fight, you shall. And then Arjuna saying, I shall do as you say. So then he's gotten ready to fight. And then Sanjay saying, Like I know where this is going, है ना? So धर्म के मार्ग पर जब चले, भगवान ने जो मार्ग, in other words, the way where we have been put in, whoever is living with us or we have to live with, or whatever the circumstance or the situation, this is our battlefield. If I have faith in my God, if I believe that my Krishna is the charioteer of my life, that he is reigning my soul, and if I'm willing, if I have an open mind, if I trust him, the Lord, if I have faith, and I'm willing to follow the path that's been shown by him in the Gita, then I can live. और रोज 18 दिन युद्ध चला था. Every night, no one slept as carefree as Arjun, believe it or not. खर्राटे पर के उससे बिंदास हो जाता था. One day कथा मैंने पहले बताई थी. नारद मुनि came to like how can this guy sleep? कभी इसी इधर वाले मर रहे, उधर वाले मर रहे, पता नहीं कल रहेगा नहीं रहेगा. भीष्म ने कह दिया कल 5 को मार डालूंगा. वो प्रतिज्ञा कर लिया. कर्ण ने कुछ कह डाला है, द्रोणाचार्य ने. How does this not lose his sleep? बिल्कुल बिना जाके सो कैसे जाता. भगवान के पहले सोता था, भगवान के बाद उठता था. भगवान सबके बाद में सोते थे, सबके पहले उठते थे. घोड़ों को भी सुला के बाद में सोते थे. रथ के मरम्मत करके पट्टी वो चटनी करके वो पे पत्ते लगा के ऐसा है लगा के उसकी जगह हॉर्स विस्परर, द ग्रेटेस्ट हॉर्स विस्परर इन हिस्ट्री वाज आवर कृष्णा. वो सबको शांत करके सीटी बजा करके सुला के बाद में जा कर के पहले ध्यान करते थे अपने तंबू में जा कर के. और सुबह कोई ब्रह्म मुहूर्त में उठ जाए, युधिष्ठिर यज्ञ करने देखे तो कन्हैया काना जागा है. पहले छत ऊपर जाके जपा कुसुम संकाशम काश्यपेयम महद्युतिम तमोरिम सर्व पापग्नम प्रणतोस्मि दिवाकरम. सूर्य भगवान को अर्घ्य चला रहे. भगवान कृष्ण देख के अचंभे में देख कब उठ गया, तो कब सोया कब उठ गया करके. एक कर्तव्य परायण था, खुद रोल मॉडल था. ही वॉक द टॉक फर्स्ट हिमसेल्फ विदाउट एक्सेप्शन एवरी डे. तो ये महाराज अर्जुन 18 दिन जाके धमाधम सो जाते थे. मस्त खर्राटे पर के सोते थे. क्यों? क्योंकि छाती में पक्का था मेरे साथ जो है, ही विल नॉट मिसलीड मी. जो होगा वो होगा. आई एम फॉलोइंग हिम. आई हैव नथिंग टू वरी. आई जस्ट नीड डू व्हाट ही टेल्स मी टू डू. I'm walking on the path of dharam. Dharamo rakshati rakshitaha. उपनिषदों का घोष वाक्य है, बोल्ड डेक्लरेशन. तो स्वामी विवेकानंद ने प्रमुख अपना स्लोगन बनाया था इसको, रामकृष्ण से दीक्षा लेकर. धर्मो रक्षति रक्षिता. The one who protects his dharma, dharma protects him. The one truly secure is only that person, that lady, that woman who protects her dharma. And dharma is not protecting Hinduism or Christianity or Islam or Judaism. Dharma is what I'm supposed to do. Am I aligned with my Lord? वहाँ पर गीता समाप्त होती है. बीच में only one other theme, one or two other themes I will point out, and then we'll stop and receive your reactions. One thing in describing Sanyas and Sanyas and Tyag, he says that, by the way, whatever you do, whatever happens, there are 5 factors that go into the outcome. Why should I not worry about the outcome? त्यागी जो कर्म फल का त्याग कर दे. What do you mean कर्म का फल नहीं चाहिए? People get frustrated. I tried so hard. I invested so much. I put in so much of my energy. I left no stone unturned. I gave all of myself. I did so much for them. And look how they treated me. Or look what happened. The project failed. Or the deadline was missed because stupid this, that. And frustrated होकर के कोई सुसाइड कर लेता है, कोई किसी को दूसरे को मर्डर कर देता है, कोई छोड़ के चले जाते हैं. ये वो सब कितना होता है. War happens, this, that. Why? Because the outcome was not the way I thought it should be, or the way I like, or that it should, or it could have been. So because we are so outcome oriented, so attached to the end result, that there is constant frustration. That is foolish. You have to त्याग करना चाहिए उसका. Because वैसे भी anyway there are 5 things that go into deciding exactly what outcome or result of every little thing that happens that you do. The smallest thing, whether today you'll end up here or not, you wanted to be here, whether you'll be able to sit through the whole session or you may have to leave early, any of it, There are 5 things that are constantly contributing to it. You, the doer, are only one of the 5. And so you don't have full agency over the outcome. You don't control what happens in the end. इसलिए शुरू में कहा था चौथे अध्याय में जो कहा था कि ओ मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भुर मा ते संगोस्तु अकर्मणि कर्मण्येव अधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. फल की अपेक्षा मत रख, फल के लिए मत कर. इधर जाके उसको क्लैरिफाई कर रहा है, because you don't actually control. There are 4 other big bosses you don't even know about, that every little thing that you're doing, that are also contributing equally, and they're perfect. Also, you may be perfect, you may be imperfect. They are perfect. The 4 and the 5 of you together are, and then he clarifies what are those 5. What are you talking about? No, तो ये the 14th verse of this 18th chapter, since you have the Gita, 14वां श्लोक में आता है, वो 5 बताते हैं. आज उसका डिटेल नहीं करेंगे. अधिष्ठानम च तथा कर्ता कारणम च पृथक विदम. That's that verse. Vividascha pratak cheshta. Deva is the 5th one. Adhishtan, karta is you. Karan is the tools, the equipment, the appliances, the devices. Or that adhishtan is the founding principle, the conditioning, the context of it. Karta is you. The equipment and the devices and the appliances and instruments are the karan. Cheshta is the process that is followed for doing it. Vivida pratak cheshta, different ways of doing the same task. Which process did you follow? Of all the various ways. And then the 5th is daiva, the unknown. Still there is an unknown in it. These 5 go into deciding the outcome of everything you do. And so even if you are the perfect that there ever was in doing this painting or the singing or the whatever task you're doing, at best you're doing 20% guarantee. Why? Because 100% divided by 5 factors is 20% each. Your absolute best ever can guarantee 20% success. Just dead on arrival. 20% is failed. 40% is failed इधर यहाँ पे, है ना. You need 60%. So इसलिए इसकी चिंता न करें जीवन में. ये होगा कि नहीं, वो होगा कि नहीं, कैसा होगा, क्या होगा. अब अपन एक इतने सब में से एक सिस्टम में से, I must do my best, absolutely, and then leave the rest to him. So that's one theme that I wanted to, and then the one last theme for today is this. Towards the end of the chapter, he says, Sve karmanya nirata. This is not the last shloka, but toward the end section of it. You know, Arjun, you can achieve all of this by simply doing whatever task you are left at. You may be a Brahman, you may be a Kshatriya, you may be a Shudra, you may be a Vaishya, you may be whoever, whatever. And he defines those कि ब्राह्मण का कर्तव्य क्या है, क्षत्रिय क्या है, वैश्य का क्या है, शूद्र क्या है, शमो दमः तपः शौचम क्षान्तिम आर्जवमेव च ब्रह्मचर्य च अहिंसा च स्वाध्याय. ब्राह्मण का क्या है, और शौर्य, अपलायनम. क्षत्रिय क्या है. तो तू जिधर है, जो है, जैसा है, तेरा जो भी काम है, whichever job you have, whichever boss you have, whatever chore you do, whatever skill, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or a tradesman or a mother or a homemaker or a retired person, sannyasi, grahast, whatever, swe karmani abhirata nirata. Your say our own, whatever you are, karmani, whatever is your role, abhirata, ईमानदारी से execute कर ले. Honestly delivering your deliverable, perfectly executing to your best whatever is supposed to be your duty, your responsibility. If you do that, through that you can actually reach the end, and you can attain to the goal in this human life. How? I shall now explain, as he says, and we're not going to do that today because I called it the last theme today. How? By just being who you are, being where you are, doing what you do in the right way. How can you actually achieve to me? Meaning God is saying that. How can you experience me? Let me explain that to you. And that's what he explains toward in the last section. And in the end is when he says, if this is too much for you, the fuse कब का उड़ गया मेरा, तो तुम बात तो कर रहे हो भगवान, लेकिन ये तो उधर fuse is blown already. I am understanding nothing. ऐसे wonky wonk हो चल रहा है गीता होता है. You think you're मेरे फेंके जा रहे हो. It's all going tangent. ऐसा अगर हो रहा हो तो भगवान खुद ही कह रहा है, then just सर्वधर्म छोड़ इन सबको, मेरे साथ आ जा, be with me, be with me, stay with me, stick with me, because like wherever I am, that is where all the right and the good, Jnanam, Vairagyam, Aishwaram, Yasha, Shree, Samudaya. These are 6 opulences of Bhagavan. There is only one. All knowledge, everything that can ever exist, anything that is to be known, perfect knowledge, Jnana, Vairagya, perfect renunciation, attached to nothing, completely detached, free from it all. Vairagya means free. The one way to think of Vairagya is freedom from all. ना राग नहीं है जिसमें, राग मतलब चिपकना, वो गोंद लगाना, डेंक कहते हैं, वो गम, glue, वो राग है. Vairag is glue free, चिपकना नहीं, unstuck, freedom. So perfect freedom, full freedom, maximum knowledge, Jnanam, Vairagam, Aishwarya is opulence, the wealth, Amiri, Raisi, Aishwaram, Yasha, success, victory, the best, the profoundest, the greatest victories ever known, imaginable. Shri, Saundarya, Achai, Pavitra, Mangalya, or Samarthya, Chata, the power, the prowess to control, the might. ये 6 उसके पास है, बाकी सब कचरा इधर अपने पास पड़ा है. इसलिए वो नहीं तो फिर क्या, इधर क्या कर रहे हैं हम लोग, और वो पूरा का पूरा उसके पास है. इसलिए कहते हैं तो फिर मेरे साथ क्यों नहीं आता. Why not you just be with me? मैं तो तरस रहा हूँ, भगवान बुला के रो के बुला रहा है, मैं पीछे भाग रहा है, क्या नहीं कर रहा है. Next time maybe we'll go through some of the stories of how deeply he's wishing and yearning and longing and praying and trying hard to draw us near him. तो कहते उससे भी हो जाएगा, धर्म पे नहीं चलना है तो. That's where the chapter ends. This is the whole full wrap around of the 18th chapter. It's glorious, it's powerful, it's liberating, it's beautiful, it's just lovely. So, Jai Shri Krishna. Now your pravachan begins from here on. I get a break, so I'm going to stop. Let's see if anybody is still left on here, or they all ran away. I think there are some. पहले उनको chance देते हैं. Let me stop recording, Dushan bhai. Stop recording, yes. And Sachin and Dushyant are still here. A couple others left. So जिसको भी unmute करके अपनी इच्छा हो, Sachin, you can unmute yourself. Dushyant bhai, you can unmute yourself. Falguni Ben ho to share. Oh, look at them. I'm going to show you to them and start my video also. How do I start? Yeah, Dushyant bhai, Falguni Ben ने पकड़ा उनको आज.
Hello. Jai Shri Krishna. Hello.
Yeah, and 2 or 3 of them had to leave early today, so we can hear you well. So share your reflections on the context of the 18th chapter, however you want, however long you want. Your turn. You're on. दिखते हैं ना?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Jai Shri Krishna, Chidu bhai.
Jai Shri
and
Krishna.
everyone out there. Good to see you, uncle. Always good to see you, uncle. So, quite interesting. Still could not, I would say, everything what you said. I think in person makes a huge difference. When I'm not there, the mind still wavers, and then Falguni is sitting next to me. So